Hello, I'm Dean Whitford, Chief Executive Officer of DraftLogic. In this video, I'm going to show you the high points of DraftLogic Electrical, electrical design software that will vastly increase your design productivity. On screen before you, you see a typical school, about 38,000 square feet. In this school, the architect has not supplied us with a ceiling plan. So the first tool we'll look at is our mass ceiling grid tool to quickly put ceiling grid into the rooms that need it. We simply select the horizontal and vertical size of the grid, advise DraftLogic that we want the middle of each room used as the start point of its grid pattern, and that we want a zero rotation angle for all the grids. DraftLogic Electrical goes through each room in the drawing and puts grid into only those rooms that need it. We see here we have a classroom that specified a ceiling type of T-bar. A neighboring room, this vestibule, specified instead that it had a ceiling type of drywall, so no ceiling grid was applied. Room types have been assigned to each room to let DraftLogic know how you want it treated. In this list here for the school, we've got a subset of our over 1,450 rooms available for selection. Let's see how our room type selections affect DraftLogic Electrical's automated placement function. Automated placement will go through the drawing to each room that you have set up, and depending on which systems you choose to execute, in this case we're going to ask for both fixtures and receptacles to be executed. And then based on what we've chosen in our room library, it will go through and place the lights and receptacles that we have requested. So here we are now with automated placement complete. It took 2 minutes and 21 seconds to put lights and receptacles into 73 spaces. Where there was a situation that DraftLogic Electrical was unsure of one of its placements, it has marked it with what we call an error or warning arrow to let you know to take a look to make sure you're happy with the placement. So how did DraftLogic Electrical know how to treat each space? Let's take a look at one of our classrooms. We'll use our Show Room Record tool to call up the room library. As I mentioned before, we have over 1,450 room library definitions ready to go for you. They're all shown in this list. But we're interested in this classroom's definition. So for this classroom, we selected a recessed fluorescent flat lens to be used for the foot candle based lighting and to light the space to 35 foot candles. Calculations were made using the reflectances that were individually decided for the room, plus the characteristics of this particular fixture. And we can click on the View Detail button to get a quick view of it. We didn't apply any of our lighting rules in this particular room, but there's a number of them to choose from. And our receptacles, for the room perimeter, we chose to have duplex receptacles rated at 100 watts with a maximum distance between them of 240 inches. We also applied an above counter GFI rule. You can see here that each of the counters received a GFI receptacle with a load of 1200 watts. We can adjust this as we desire. And here's one of our room perimeter receptacles at 100 watts. And again, we can adjust this as desired. So there's the results of automated placement. If you want to change those results, we have some high volume move and copy tools to make it quick and easy to do it. These high volume tools know what kind of block you're picking up and what mounting style it has. So there's some intelligence here. For example, if I pick up this luminaire and move it into a neighboring cell, all I have to do is just click anywhere in the cell, and DraftLogic Electrical will automatically snap it into the cell for me. If I want to move this receptacle onto this slanted wall face by the door, I just click anywhere near where I want it to go. It'll find the nearest wall, go back to it, and match the rotation of it. If you want to tweak how the lighting was applied to one particular space, so you don't want to rerun all your classrooms, you just want to rerun one, then we have a luminaire adjust tool. So I select the room that I want to affect. Let's say I want to have this room lit to 50-foot candles instead. I could change the fixture type, I can change the foot candles, I can change the rotation angle, I can force a different coefficient of utilization. In this case, I've just changed the foot candles, and as you can see, I ended up with another row of luminaires to increase the lighting level in the space. This is a good time to mention that we are running DraftLogic Electrical straight out of the box. Everything that you're seeing is as installed. There's no configuration necessary to do any of what I'm going to show you today. This is unlike many other design products that require anywhere from tens of hours of configuration to hundreds of hours of configuration and still don't achieve anywhere near the productivity gains that DraftLogic Electrical offers out of the box. So automated placement is thus a process which can help the designer to get the right devices in the right places, but which does not paint the designer in a corner. The designer has complete control over where luminaires and receptacles end up and their specifications. To place additional devices and other systems, we have tool palettes. One for luminaires, one for receptacles, controls, fire and emergency and exit, low voltage, and branch circuit wiring. So for example, if I want to place a bell with strobe, I just put it near the wall I want to place it on. It finds the wall, rotates and snaps to it, because again, DraftLogic Electrical knows that this is a wall-mounted device. And that's how all of the blocks in DraftLogic Electrical work. They're intelligent and they're going to help you go to where you want them to go. Looking at the high volume copy tool, there's three versions: copy with edit, copy no edit, and copy multiple units with no edit. So if we wanted some more of these receptacles on this curved wall, I can just grab it, and as long as I'm within my tolerance, it'll snap to that wall automatically. So you can see all of the receptacles that I placed were snapped and rotated to the wall. Bang, bang, bang. And they all have the desired attributes completely filled out. Another variant of the tools that DraftLogic Electrical provides to speed your design work is auto reload. So for example, if I wanted to put an HVAC motor, I select it off the tool palette, locate it in the drawing. The attribute editor dialog comes up automatically. Every block in DraftLogic Electrical that has value in having a unique name, this includes motors, all the distribution devices, emergency battery packs, etc., will have a unique name automatically generated for it. You can replace it if you like. I'm going to give it a description which will show up on the drawing, optional, of HVAC, and supply a horsepower rating for this particular one. Skimming through the rest of my values, I'm happy with them. So auto reload places that same block ready to go again with one click, and it also rolls forward my last used attribute settings. The unique name, of course, is different, automatically different, but everything else is ready to go again. So I can change what I need to change, keep what I want to keep, and very quickly place a number of blocks that are repetitive or near repetitive into my drawing. Once you have your devices in the drawing, you are ready to proceed with automated circuiting. During automated circuiting, DraftLogic Electrical will travel through each area that you decide is to be circuited to a particular panel or panel room and assign circuits on either a compatible existing panel with available circuits, or DraftLogic Electrical will place new panels as required to service the area. Setting up service areas is very quick and easy. First, you decide which type of service area you want, whether it's mixed, segregated, meaning lights and receptacles to the same panel room but on separate panels. You choose the room that you want to be a panel room and where in that room you want panels to automatically be placed. And then you choose the area that you want to be circuited, either by using existing boundaries or drawing your own new one. I'm just selecting the room boundaries here. DraftLogic Electrical gives you a preview of what you've selected. You can finish that off and select a new one. I'm going to load a drawing that I've completed this process on. We have a tool to show how the circuiting is looking already. You choose the panel room, and it colorizes the drawing based on what areas are assigned to that panel or panel room, and by color it tells you what services it's going to handle for that area. So here we have blue, which is other only, things like receptacles, heaters, small motors, going to this room here. And in this room up here, this panel room, we have all of the emergency devices for the whole building footprint, plus the power heaters and small motors for the northwest corner. Let's get automated circuiting running. To get it going, we just select the automated circuiting button on the tool palette, tell it to run on all. There's some questions about whether we want to keep some prior selections or not. And away it goes. The path of travel that automated circuiting follows within an area is a modified traveling salesman path to optimize circuit groupings on the panel for ease of construction. The decision of whether to share a circuit with a neighboring room or not is based on available capacity remaining on the circuit, the load of the compatible devices in the neighboring room, and finally, but most importantly, whether or not you, the user, has indicated that sharing is allowed between these two rooms in the room library. Groups of circuits are used in 2s for single-phase panels and 3s for three-phase panels in order to maximize the opportunity for neutral sharing, when allowed, and thus reduce construction time and materials costs. Small motors will be serviced by the same panels and same circuits as receptacles of compatible voltage if you decide to allow DraftLogic Electrical to do that. You can also decide to have all motors circuited separately. Heaters will circuit to the same panel rooms as receptacles. Large motors will look to the project parameter wherein you, the user, decide to direct them to motor control centers, the main distribution panel, or regular branch circuit panels that also service receptacles. While automated circuiting is finishing, I should mention an important difference between DraftLogic Electrical and building information modeling. Building information modeling software is used to create a 3D model of the building that allows designers and their clients to see a detailed representation of how all major components of the building fit together. There is value to this approach, but it does not come without a cost. Much time must be devoted to creating the model, and there is a balance between how much time is spent and how far to carry the details. The time and resource-intensive nature of building information modeling hampers electrical design firms from achieving their primary goal. That goal is to, as speedily as possible, produce easily managed information that is still perfectly accurate and sufficiently detailed. In creating DraftLogic Electrical, we had that goal clearly in our sights, increasing designer productivity by a minimum of 200% and up to as much as 1300%. We have included extra information in the 2D model to enable DraftLogic Electrical to create an accurate bill of materials. Getting to your desired documentation destination in a fraction of the time that would be demanded by working in a 3D environment is extremely beneficial when it comes to creating construction documentation. Okay, automated circuiting has finished. In total, 2 minutes and 10 seconds was spent to circuit the entire building. We can see that in our main mechanical room, we have some new panels that were automatically placed. In the southwest area electrical, we've got a couple panels, and same as in the storage room where we opted to route our emergency and northwest corner services to. These panels have robust attributes including a unique name that's been automatically generated, a specifier of what panel type they are, and opportunities for the designer to override any later decisions on protection and feeders. Where there was any sort of problem with automated circuiting, DraftLogic Electrical has placed a warning or error arrow. For example, here we had a stove that was specified to be 240 volts, but in our design parameter for this project we only allowed 120/208 volt panels. So of course we couldn't service this 240 volt kitchen special receptacle. The solution is easy. We change it to 208 volts, call up our circuit manager, which can be used to create circuiting completely manually. It can be used to delete automated or manual circuiting, or modify automated or manual circuiting. In this case, we're going to service this stove from the same panel as its neighboring devices in the kitchen. We are automatically directed to the first available circuits in the panel. Looking down the list, we can see the prior circuits have been allocated. So select a 2-pole, let DraftLogic Electrical figure out the protection size, and add the stove receptacle. We get a running total of how many watts and objects we've selected in AutoCAD. When we're done, we right-click to go back to our circuit manager, where it has automatically selected protection size for us and let us know about the various specifications of this circuit. Completing the electrical services for this building is as quick and easy in DraftLogic Electrical as everything else you've seen so far. We just grab what we need off of our tool palette, throw it into the drawing, and use the circuit manager to create relationships between the various devices. So for example here, I've set up to circuit the 120 volt equipment to my CDP. It's defaulting to a child panel, 3 poles. I can add these 120 volt panels very quickly, and I would carry on so forth with the transformer to get the CDP services to the MDP, etc. Let's quickly generate the panel schedules and single line diagram for this project after I've completed associating the distribution devices to each other. I'll just go to my report wizard and select the panel schedule and single line. DraftLogic Electrical is now completely automatically generating panel schedules and single line diagrams from scratch. This is how DraftLogic Electrical does all of your schedules, completely automatically. No need for you to set up any scheduling, no need for you to put down any blocks, fill in any attributes, nothing. All of it is completely automatic. So after just a minute or so, DraftLogic Electrical has completed the panel schedules and single line diagram, as we can see here. So here's our motor control center and various panels connected to the CDP being fed through a transformer all the way to our main service, and then the various panel schedules. DraftLogic Electrical looks at all panel-like devices as panels in order to be able to create these schedules. They have a header with lots of information about where the service is, its name, voltage, interrupting capacity, and a center section with the detail on each circuit, and then finally a lower section where there's lots of detail on the loads, how they were broken down, and the resultant protection and conductors. So if we look at a regular branch circuit panel, we can see in the detail section that we're told which room the circuit is in, a single letter identifier to tell you what type of circuit it is, how many devices are on the circuit, the total wattage, and the amperage of the protection and how many circuits it's taking up. And again at the bottom, as we looked at before, all of the calculations, numbers used in the calculations to determine the conductors and protection are shown. Okay, so how do we deal with the ever-present and ever-reoccurring changes requested by other consultants on the job and the client? Let's say, for example, that the mechanical consultant desires to change the horsepower rating on one of the motors. So instead of this motor being a 15 horsepower, they've requested a 20 horsepower. They also want an additional HVAC motor. So we'll just copy one of the existing. It's given a unique name automatically, and we can change the horsepower on it to whatever was specified, and we'll let our protection and feeder recalculate. Whenever you rerun any of the schedules that depends on protection and feeder calculations, those are all redone all the time. So you don't have to worry about updating them manually yourself. You just rerun the schedule and you get the most currently calculated values for that. Finally, let's add on another panel. The client has advised that at some point they may put some portables onto the east end of the facility, and they want to have a panel available to service that. So since this panel won't have any load today, we're going to give it a presumed future load of 100 kilowatts, and then we just need to circuit it. So now you can see we've assigned a circuit to our new motor I. This motor and the motor that we changed the horsepower on will have their protection and feeder calculated next time we run a suitable report. So let's rerun our panel schedules and single line. For comparison purposes, we're going to retain our old single line. So do we wish to overwrite the prior versions? No, let's keep it. And we'll see how it's changed given that we've added a new motor entirely, we've changed the horsepower of an existing motor, and we added that panel to the east side to be able to handle future portables. So here's our new single line. We have an additional motor. We have our additional J panel. We can see that the services across the transformer have increased, but that the added load was not enough to push an increase in our main service. So all of that was completed in a couple minutes. We can probably all agree that it would take much longer to achieve these results using traditional methods. With circuiting complete, we are ready to add the branch circuit wiring to the drawing. Automated branch circuit wiring is driven by the selections the designer makes in the project parameters insofar as whether to use conduit and wire or a metallic or non-metallic cable. There are over 10 other parameters that tell the expert system how to perform the branch circuit wiring. For example, the maximum number of circuits to gather for a home run. The designer can select as few as one circuit to perform automated branch circuit wiring on with a particular set of parameters, or the whole project at once. Today we are running the entire project in one pass. In just a minute or so, automated branch circuit wiring has completed. As you can see, it has drawn the whips from the fluorescent lights to central junction boxes, connected those junction boxes with conduit and wire, added wire count symbols, and added the home runs. We have all systems represented. Here's the power, lighting, motors. After only a couple of minutes, a full swath of reports is generated. The first reports are floor plans. I drew some cut lines here of how I wanted my floor plans broken up. and you can see that there's been layouts set up using each of those cut lines for each system. So I've got the west half and the east half for luminaires, west and east for receptacles, motors, and a variety of other ones combining motors and receptacles or secondary systems or everything except luminaires. Next we have a bill of materials. It shows our conduit and wiring lengths with total footages, system materials with total quantities, panels and transformers with their interrupting capacity requirements, the protection needed for them, and some other information about each panel, transformers, and finally a summary table of panels and transformers, and then a summary table of protection, breakers and fuses, the interrupting capacity rating required for each. If you used any kitchen style receptacles, you get a kitchen schedule that itemizes all of those devices. We have a legend of symbols that shows you only what was used on the project. So instead of dumping that 200 or 300 item legend of symbols on each and every project, large or small, you can have a custom one that only shows you what was used. We have a portrait version and a landscape version. The luminaire catalog shows you a lot of information from DraftLogic Electrical's luminaire library for your clients to see what type of luminaires have been used in the project. This fixture type number ties into the luminaire schedule and into the luminaire tags on model space. If we flip back to model space, we can see the luminaire tags here. This number ties into the luminaire catalog and luminaire schedule. So returning to the luminaire catalog, we can see that a variety of information has been drawn from the database and presented for your clients. All of these reports can of course be sent to any size of sheet that you desire. For my purposes, I simply used architectural e-size for everything, but you can of course send certain reports to certain sizes of paper and other reports like your floor plans to the larger sizes. Here we have our luminaire schedule, which gives you a summary of each luminaire used on the project, the type number tying into the luminaire catalog and the luminaire tags on the drawing, a description, number of lamps, voltage, and the quantities. The motor schedule, which by your choice can either be a motor only schedule or a motor and heater schedule, gives you detail about each of your motors, heaters, description, location, horsepower, feeder, comments. Again, we have our panel schedules and single line, and then a watts per square foot report, which gives you information per room on the wattage, the square feet, and the watts per square feet, and then a summary for each floor and each project as a whole. Now, of course, I only have one floor, so my summaries are the same. So there you have the reports. Now that we've added all of our devices and branch circuit wiring into our drawing, things have gotten somewhat cluttered. You can see that there's some circuit numbers that have collided with the branch circuit wiring, etc. We have a tool to help you reorganize all that instead of having you sift through the drawing for days upon end moving things around. We have our annotation organizer. And what this does is automatically reorganizes all the attributes of all the blocks to minimize collisions. So let's just set it up and run that. All the settings for the annotation organizer are under your complete control. So you decide how much buffer there is between the attributes and the block, the height of the attributes, the distance between each attribute of a block. You can have different values for switches than for other blocks. You can have the annotation for wall-mounted blocks run toward them instead of being at plan 0. And The ones that go vertical, you can choose to have them at plan 0 or not. And you can choose for the wall-mounted ones that are at vertical setting to be north or south. XREFs can be part of the collision avoidance or not at your choice. You can choose to run it on one block, many blocks, or all the blocks. I'm going to run it on my entire drawing. And you can also just run it for the home run blocks or for everything. So in 78 seconds, the annotation organizer rearranged all of the attributes in the drawing. You can see that for the ceiling mounted luminaires, we have a preference of east side bordering. So all the attributes for over 900 blocks were quickly rearranged. Where there was a situation that the automation couldn't resolve, you've been given an error arrow to help you find those places to fix them up. And here is the receptacles with the wall mounted, showing the orientation following the wall. And that's the annotation organizer. In closing, those who have seen our demos typically have their socks blown off. If you don't feel the same, I have likely failed to properly present something. If there is anything that is preventing you from wanting DraftLogic Electrical now, please let us know. Call Jerry or myself or email us, and we'll be happy to provide more information or clear up any confusion that I caused in this time-compressed demonstration. Lastly, for those of you that are under pressure to use Revit on jobs, take heart in knowing that we have proven in a case study that it is faster, much faster, to still design in DraftLogic Electrical and then place only the devices that matter into the Revit model. You don't need to, nor likely do you want to, design from start to finish in Revit. Thanks for your time.